Hello there, this is me, Ansh Pandey, and you are watching One India English. Following the weekend attack launched by Tehran, which was seen as a retaliation for Israel's suspected strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, earlier in April, now President Joe Biden engaged in a high-stake meeting with Czech Republic Prime Minister Petr Fiala. The timing of this meeting, occurring in the aftermath of the escalating tensions in the Middle East, makes it very obvious the discussions were surely held on Iran owing to the urgency of addressing this complex geopolitical landscape. The meeting, as expected, ended on notes including condemnation of Iran's attack on Israel and a call to urge restraint rather than going all out against each other, a tone for both Israel and Iran. However, the growing concern now reverberating across the United States has now reached a fever pitch. The United States, along with its steadfast Western allies in Europe, wields a formidable weapon in its arsenal, the sanction playbook, a tome of punitive measures that have historically brought several nations to their financial knees. Yet, despite all this escalating drama unfolding in the Middle East, the Biden administration has refrained from unleashing any fresh sanctions on Iran. Why? Well, this is not us asking this, it's actually the Congress members of the United States. Steve Scalise, the representative of LA 1st District, among others, highlighted a growing concern about the administration's policy allegedly facilitating Iran's ability to sell its oil, which provides funding for activities labeled as supporting terrorism. Taking a jibe at the Biden administration policy, Steve alleged that they have made it easier for Iran to sell its oil and finance the terror activities. The pressure to take action against Iran poses a dilemma for Biden administration, yet they must balance a deterring future attack without escalating any sort of tensions in the region, escalating the oil prices, or even antagonizing China, which is a significant buyer of this Iranian oil. For the unaware, Washington's primary goal ever since the start of the Gaza war has been to prevent the Gaza conflict between Hamas and Israel from spreading into a broader regional war and keeping Iran from getting it involved. However, many regional analysts doubt that President Biden will significantly increase enforcement of existing US sanctions to curb Iran's crude export, which are vital to its economy. Former President Donald Trump reinstated major sanctions on Iran's oil after 2018, after withdrawing from the international nuclear deal with Tehran. The Biden administration has attempted to combat the evasion of these sanctions by targeting companies in China, the United Arab Emirates, and other countries. Yet, despite all these efforts, Iran's oil exports have reportedly reached 1.6 to 1.8 million barrels per day, that is close to pre-sanction levels. Now, why is that so? Well, the answer is pretty simple, and the answer for that will be China. For the unaware, almost all of this Iranian oil is entering China and it is being branded as originating from Malaysia or any other Middle Eastern country. And it is also being carried in a dark fleet of older tanks that typically switch off their transponders when loading at Iranian ports to definitely avoid detection. The tanker tracking specialist Vortexa analyst estimates that China has acquired approximately 55.6 metric trillions of this oil, that is approximately 1.1 million barrel of Iranian crude a day last year. That amounts to roughly 90% of all the Iran's crude export and 10% of China's oil imports. Several analysts also suggest that Washington might take some action to cut Iran's oil export, in a part to temper any Israel action to the Iranian strike, which however might escalate the conflict. But they say that this will fall short of dramatic actions such as sanctioning major financial companies of China, and instead could involve targeting Chinese or other entities engaged in such a trade. And sadly, China is actually re-exporting this oil to the other parts of the world too, including Europe and other parts of the world which were actually left scrambling for the oil after the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022. The issue of enforcing sanctions on Iran's oil sector is further complicated by the intricate dance of international trade dynamics. The covert nature of this Iranian oil export, often disguised through various means to evade detection, poses a significant hurdle to effective enforcement. Secondly, several experts predict that Iran's financial system is already choked with the 2018 sanctions, and so new sanctions will simply not affect it anymore. Just as we saw with Russia evading the oil sanctions with heavy discounts and third-party exports, Iran might opt for that too. Instead, the US will now have to target those companies which are in contact in Iran for these oil imports. So this means if you have to take action against Iran with more sanctions, which several analysts say Biden is hesitant to do so, you will have to Chinese other companies, which mostly are in China. While there may be calls for aggressive measures to curtail Iran's oil exports, particularly in light of recent provocation, the Biden administration is carefully weighing on the potential consequences too. Any action taken must strike a delicate balance between signaling resolve in the face of Iranian aggression and avoiding actions that can inadvertently escalate the tensions or destabilize the global oil markets too. Ultimately, the Biden administration's response to the Iranian challenge will likely involve a combination of diplomatic maneuvers, several targeted sanctions, and strategic engagement with key regional players. But yet, imposing any new sanctions is not that easy, and so Biden is not rushing anymore to impose new trade restrictions on Iran.